The radical, fundamental principles of freedom, rational self-interest, and individual rights. This is the Yaron Brook Show.
All right, everybody, welcome to Yaron Brook Show on this Wednesday, February 19th. The evil clown show just keeps on going. It just doesn't take any breaks. It just marches ahead. Unbelievable. Every time I think that Trump has reached a new low, he goes lower and lower and lower. I don't know. It's hard to fathom that the United States of America has reached this depth of depravity, and I consider Trump now completely depraved after what he's said the last couple of days. I'm interested in those who defend Trump, how they're going to pivot here, blame everything, I guess, on Europe and on Ukraine, and say, no, Putin's a good guy. People who realize that Putin's a bad guy, how they're going to pivot here, it's going to be really, really, really interesting. Anyway, we're going to talk about Trump and Zelensky, the back and forth between them. We'll talk about Europe, Europe's response, Europe's future. What does Europe do now? What should it do? What will it do? What can it do? We'll talk about the latest out of Washington. Again, an unbelievably brain-dead proposal out of DOGE. We'll talk about the DOGE Dividend. Drones in Mexico, Milei Crisis. An asteroid has a probability of hitting Earth, an asteroid the size of, bigger than the Statue of Liberty, but as tall as the Statue of Liberty. But 500, if it hits Earth, it'll be 500 times stronger than Hiroshima. The bomb in Hiroshima has a 3.2% chance of hitting Earth in 2032. 3.2% chance. It's been upped. It was 2 point something, now 3. We'll talk about that. And then finally, supposedly a breakthrough in quantum computing. I know nothing about quantum computing, but it sounds important. It sounds like a big deal. So I'll mention it. I don't know what you're going to do with it, but I'm trying to find some good news here and share it with you. A reminder that you can shape the show if there are topics I haven't talked about, topics you would like me to talk about, related to anything. It could be politics, it could be economics, it could be state of the world, it could be culture, it could be objectivism, it could be philosophy, it could be anything that you think I might have something worthwhile to say. Please feel free to ask. A Q&A, the super chat is open. You can also support the show with a sticker. Silvanos did so. This is a listener-supported show. Exists because of you. So thank you, Silvanos. Thank you, Mark, for coming through with some stickers without a question, but just supporting the show. And Oyvind will get you a question, although I'll be answering your questions in spades in a minute. So feel free to jump in and everything. So let's get started. Oh, one other thing. Today's show will be relatively short. I do have a hard stop, so probably an hour and a half, an hour and 40 minutes. We'll see exactly how long it goes, but that is the goal. And so I'll be speeding through some of this. God. All right. So, as you know, yesterday, Donald Trump basically came out and blamed Ukraine for not surrendering over the last 3 years. He said Zelensky could have solved this war thing over the last 3 years, i.e., the only way Ukraine could have done it is by surrendering. Accused Zelensky of not surrendering, and then blamed Ukraine for the war. He basically said Ukraine started the war. Which was depraved and unjust and just horrible from every dimension, and just a plain lie, plain deception. Now, lying is what anybody with a mind expects of Trump. I mean, that's what he does. That is his MO. That is the one thing he's really, 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 really good at. It's lying. He lies without any compunction, without any problem. Well, Zelensky actually had a press conference in which he defended himself. He explained to the world how this war, as if nobody knows, was actually started by Putin, by Russia. It invaded Ukraine. It tried to capture Kiev. You remember that? The Ukrainians fought back bravely and have been fighting bravely for the last 3 years to defend their country from a vicious, brutal dictator by the name of Vladimir Putin and his Russian regime. All in the name, the invasion, all in the name of Russian imperialism. This had nothing to do with NATO expansion. NATO's been expanding. And indeed, NATO expanded more after Putin invaded Ukraine than it was going to before, with Finland and Sweden joining NATO. So, I mean, all of that BS, we've covered it many, many times on this show, the BS of this is NATO's fault. Anyway, basically, Zelensky spoke back. He also talked about the deal to supposedly exchange Ukrainian natural resources for American help, a deal that seemed quite reasonable. But then he said, basically, the deal was Ukraine give up all its natural resources, $500 billion worth of, to the United States indefinitely. No end to the contract, and with nothing promised in return. Zero promised in return was the document sent to Zelensky, which he turned down. And he said all this. He defended himself. Zelensky is anything but a coward. He is courageous. He is brave, and he spoke back. He did something no Republican would dare to do. Something no sitting senator would dare to do, something no House member would dare to do. He actually spoke back, contradicted, challenged Emperor Donald Trump. Should we call him Emperor or Caesar? I don't know which one is better fitting. J.D. Vance, in a press conference, I guess he's still in Europe, said Zelensky will regret bad-mouthing Donald Trump, President Trump, because that's a standard in strategic, in strategy. Czar Trump, I like that. I like Czar Trump. Czar is better. Czar Trump, yep. Well, we got Czar Putin, so I don't know. Anyway, Emperor, I like Emperor. We'll talk about what the Emperor wants to do in a minute, but anyway. So Trump today, obviously pissed off that Zelensky did talk back at him. And we know what Trump does when somebody talks back at him. He goes all in on trying to undermine him and insult him. He did this to Carly Fiorina in 2016, called her ugly. He did this to Marco Rubio, little Marco, with his father supporting Castro or something like that. I can't remember what the exact thing was. He did it to every one of them. And this is what he wrote today. This is President of the United States, not Emperor yet, President of the United States. Think of it. A modestly successful comedian, Vladimir Zelensky, talked the United States of America into spending $350 billion to go into a war that couldn't be won, that never had to start, but a war that he, without the U.S. and, quote, Trump, will never be able to settle. Trump in all caps. The United States has spent $200 billion more than Europe, and Europe's money is guaranteed, while the United States will get nothing back. Why didn't Sleepy Joe Biden demand equalization? In that this war is far more important to Europe than it is to us. We have a big, beautiful ocean, a separation. We should call it the American Ocean. A separation. On top of this, Zelensky admits that half of the money we sent him is missing. All caps as well. He refuses to have elections, is very low in Ukrainian polls, and the only thing he was good at was playing Biden like a fiddle. A dictator without elections. Zelensky better move fast, or he is not going to have a country left. In the meantime, we are successfully negotiating an end to the war with Russia, something all admit only Trump, all camps, and the Trump administration can do. Biden never tried. Europe has failed to bring peace, and Zelensky probably wants to keep the gravy train going. I love Ukraine, but Zelensky has done a terrible job. His country is shattered, and millions have unnecessarily died, and so it continues. I mean, all the names I've called Donald Trump over the many years, I mean, he's living up to every single one of them. This is monstrous. I mean, it is particularly monstrous. We'll get to the content in a minute. It's particularly monstrous when he has no such post for Putin. Putin actually is a dictator. Not a word. Putin, who started this war, who has sacrificed hundreds of thousands of Russian lives, dead and injured, to this imperial aspiration, gets not a word of denunciation, only praise. I mean, we'll hear more about beautiful and wonderful and amazing Russia, right? And particularly, when he meets with Putin, maybe next week in Saudi Arabia. I mean, Putin will be beautiful and amazing and strong, and a great leader of a great country. Zelensky is the dictator. Why? Because he suspended election during a war. Now, I don't think he should have done that, but Churchill did it in World War II in England. Does Zelensky ever intend to have elections? I think the answer is unequivocally yes. Is Zelensky a dictator anywhere near that definition as compared to Putin? Not in the same ballpark. Just not in the same ballpark. Indeed, the lead opposition candidate to Zelensky, the man who might beat him, keeps saying, it's not time for an election. After the war, we'll have an election. It's not time for an election. Let's beat the Russians first, then we can have an election. I mean, Donald Trump is, the statement itself is ludicrous. From the numbers are just not true. The 350 billion is not true. The 200 billion is not true. The 100 billion that is missing is just not true. Nobody thinks that 100 billion that the United States sent Ukraine is missing. We haven't sent them 100 billion. We've sent them mostly equipment that was old and falling apart. Not falling apart, but reaching its expiration date, needed to be replaced anyway. We sent it to Ukraine to expire on some Russians. I can't think of a better use for expiring ammunition than to send it to Ukraine so they can drop some Russians with it. Nothing he says here is true. And of course, everything he says here will be repeated and reinforced. It's just, I don't know. It's just mind-boggling. Boggles my mind. I have a simple mind. If you just think of just the facts. And the right rallies around him. I haven't heard any of the Republican hawkish foreign policy senators criticize Trump. Of course, they all voted for Tulsi Gabbard to be the head of all our intelligence agencies. Tulsi Gabbard, who has been a mouthpiece for Putin for years. Tulsi Gabbard, who from the beginning of the Ukraine war has blamed it on Zelensky. Tulsi Gabbard, who has been calling Zelensky a dictator for a couple of years now. I mean, clearly, Trump is now basically mimicking Tulsi Gabbard, just like I expect him to mimic RFK on vaccines and everything else. Literally, the worst elements, the worst people that Trump has brought into his administration are the ones that are shaping this administration. Now, all of this is also, and you know, one has to say this, all this is really rich as well from the perspective of a president who denied losing an election and who encouraged his followers to attempt to overthrow it, certainly encouraged his vice president to violate his constitutional responsibility in order to keep Donald Trump in power. If anybody here is leaning on the dictator side, I know this is ancient history, 2020, it's Trump. And then, of course, pardoned all the people who actually went to do his bidding in the Capitol to try to subvert authorizing the election. Right. This is a man who has any moral stature to call somebody a dictator, somebody who is democratically elected. And, you know, we'll face elections. We'll face elections. So you got Tulsi, you got J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance is I mean, he's as bad as I thought he would be, which is really bad because if you remember, I warned you guys about J.D. Vance. He's turning out to be just as bad, and he's going to be, I don't see how, you know, unless something happens. I think Trump is losing support among the population, but it's hard to see who the Democrats have to beat him. But J.D. Vance might be president next time, although next time Donald Trump might run again. I mean, it's quite possible. Certainly this is being floated and discussed and debated that he might run again. Anyway, Trump is turning out to be as bad as I expected. Now, as part of the negotiations with the Russians, one of the things the Russians have wanted for years now, one of the things Putin has wanted for years. Putin, by the way, a real dictator, a real murderer. I mean, he murders his own people. He murders foreigners. He poisons people. He kills people. He kills opposition leaders. He shuts down all media. He puts people who demonstrate against him in jail. I mean, one of the most brutal dictators on planet Earth today. Dictators. One of the things that Putin has wanted for a long time is to get American troops to, I mean, ideally leave NATO completely, but as an intermediary step, to back away from the border with Russia. In other words, what Putin would like is the United States to withdraw its troops from the Baltic states, Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, to withdraw any troops that it has in Poland, in Romania. Generally, what Putin would like is for the United States to withdraw all troops from what was called Eastern Europe. All of them. Maybe they can stay in Eastern Germany, but that's as far east as they can go. Now, that would mean that if Putin invaded Estonia, let's say, he might be fighting NATO troops, but he wouldn't actually be fighting American troops, and there's a chance that he could avoid America entering the war. So he would like to get America away from the border, and by moving American troops out, Putin expects to be able to project significant power over Eastern Europe. He expects, even if he doesn't actually take it over, he expects to be able to, they will be at his mercy. And America, having retreated, is, you know, the Eastern Europeans won't believe it'll come to their aid, and they'll gravitate towards Putin. They already are. Remember, Hungary, Slovakia. Although the Slovakia Prime Minister, I understand, is not very popular these days, so he might lose the next election. Anyway, it appears that in the negotiations yesterday in Saudi Arabia, this issue was brought up. And the Americans did not reject it. Indeed, according to a German newspaper, now granted these unidentified sources type thing, An Eastern European official has told the German paper that discussions are ongoing in regards to the withdrawal of U.S. troops from all countries in Europe that joined the NATO alliance after 1990, which is reported to have been one of the goals of the recent negotiations, one of Russia's goals in the recent negotiations. This would include Albania, Bulgaria, Croatia, the Czech Republic, Estonia, Finland, Hungary, Latvia, Lithuania, Montenegro, Northern Macedonia, Poland, Romania, Slovakia, Slovenia, and Sweden. Sweden. Wow. Additionally, preparations are said to be ongoing in Italy for the possible withdrawal of U.S. forces from Kosovo. Kosovo, which is in the crosshair, has been since the war there, crosshair of Russian ally, God, what is the name of the country? Belgrade is the capital. Belgrade is the capital of Serbia. It came to me before you guys said it on the chat. Of Serbia. So basically handing Kosovo over to Serbia. Again, should the United States be in NATO? Should the United States have troops in Kosovo? Should the United States be doing any of these things? Maybe not. But to do this because Russia is demanding it in a negotiation? To do this in order for Putin to declare victory? This is complete American surrender. Complete American surrender. This is America basically giving up, and betraying everything we believe in and surrendering to Russia, to Putin. I mean, I'm not a conspiracy theory guy. I don't believe in conspiracy theories. But I'm tempted. I'm tempted to think that Putin has something on Trump, that Trump is somehow doing this for Putin. I don't think that's the case. I just think he admires Putin. I think one thug admires another thug. And I think ultimately, and I think this is what's going to happen, and this moves us to this question of Europe. It's something we really need to consider. Can you imagine Putin and Trump sitting down in Saudi Arabia next week, or whenever it happens, and basically redrawing the map of Europe? Basically divvying it up. I mean, Trump already wants Greenland. Greenland is part of Denmark. Why stop at Greenland? I mean, there are other places in Europe that are pretty cool. I mean, I wonder if they're going to drop the map where Putin has his sphere of influence and America has its sphere of influence. And who cares about what the Europeans think about this? Who cares about what the Europeans want? We'll just divvy it up. Divvy it up. Because I think Trump is arrogant enough to do so. Trump is dumb enough to do so, or easy enough to manipulate to do so by somebody like Putin. It's what Putin wants. It's what Putin wants. Ultimately, I mean, he wants Eastern Europe, right? So now the question really is, what does Europe do? What does Europe do? Europeans are meeting today. The Polish Prime Minister is flying to Paris. There's an emergency summit devoted to what's going on with Ukraine and Europe. One of the things the United States wants is a European peacekeeping force in Ukraine as part of this deal, not a NATO peacekeeping force, no American troops, no American commitments, but a European peacekeeping force. They're going to discuss that. But really, what they need to discuss, what they should discuss, what they have to discuss, and what I hope they will discuss is the future of Europe. Europe, if you include Eastern Europe, Europe has a larger population than the United States. It has the third largest economy in the world. It has two countries with nuclear weapons, France and the United Kingdom. It has a highly educated population. It has all the resources to be a major player on the world scene. But at the same time, Europe is in decline. Now, you know, people will blame primarily immigration for this, but it's not about immigration. It's primarily about the loss of any kind of respect for its own Western civilizational values, and attached and related to that a complete move away from capitalism. That is the establishment of the bureaucratic state. And Germany is feeling it right now. Germany is in deep economic trouble. We've talked about this over and over again, but it keeps coming up because it's a big issue, particularly now when Germany is expected to bear a big chunk of whatever costs European support for Ukraine are going to entail, or whatever, or peacekeeping troops, or whatever it is that actually happens. Germany's going to bear the brunt of this, and it's still the biggest economy in Europe. Yet it is a failing economy. It is a declining economy. It is a shrinking economy. But European problems can be fixed quickly and easily. Here is my proposal. My proposal is that the Europeans band together in a form of federation. I know people hate this. That they abandon their commitment to a regulatory state in the name of economically competing with the United States and China. That they literally start abolishing the regulatory state. I would encourage the United Kingdom to join in with Europe, both in some kind of federation, and Europe needs an army. It needs a military force. It needs its own military force. Europe needs to become the economic and military power that it can be, that can stand up to Russia, and if need be, and the need might be there, to stand up to the United States. Europe needs to harken back to the principles that made it great, the ideas of the Enlightenment, the ideas of individual liberty, the ideas of a limited state, the idea that got manifest primarily in the United States of America, but the ideas all came from Europe. It needs to abandon the false Armageddon of climate change and embrace the real Armageddon of Putin's Russia and Trump's America. It needs to liberate its entrepreneurs, free up its capital, and, bring in the resources necessary, and it has the resources necessary to become a dominant player in the world today. So make Europe free, maybe for the first time, fully. That's the solution. Now, nobody's going to adopt my solution completely, but they can take real steps towards that. They can take steps towards starting the process, but doing it fast, of dismantling the regulatory bureaucracy that is Brussels. They can show that it can be done without the insanity of DOGE. Just go in there and start ripping apart the regulations, particularly those that relate to business formation, business success, business growth. Encourage entrepreneurs to come back to Europe. The most successful ones are all in the United States. I mean, make Europe great. Make Europe free. and make Europe strong. I mean, Poland has the right attitude. It already is spending close to 5% of GDP, more than the United States, on its defense. It is building the largest military in Europe. But Poland is not enough, although Poland could probably defeat Russia all by itself. Scandinavia has, Scandinavian countries, including Finland, have, I think, fairly strong militaries. But what now we need is for Germany and France and Italy and even Spain to take this threat seriously and to join in a military alliance that does not need the United States. Indeed, I would say kick Trump out of NATO. That should be the conclusion of the Paris deal. Kick Trump out of NATO and reestablish NATO on European grounds with a European commitment to arm themselves to the teeth. And by the way, one of the first things they should do is establish a military base in Greenland. It really is. It has come to this. Europe cannot rely on the U.S. as an ally. Europe cannot rely on the United States as sane. Europe cannot rely on the United States as having any value to them. Trump again talked today about more tariffs on cars, on chips, on pretty much everything. The United States is no longer a great European, economic partner. Indeed, Europe would do itself a massive favor if it just dropped tariffs with the rest of the world to zero. If it just opened itself up to real competition. And it got rid of all the regulations and subsidies and laws that restrict its capacity to innovate and grow. Including, by the way, the massive subsidies that industry gets in Germany. I mean, I think it's funny. It's funny. If it really is sad, but it's funny that as the United States believes that it needs to reindustrialize, it needs to bring industry back, it needs manufacturing jobs, it is that attitude, all those manufacturing jobs, that are leading to German decline. Germany shouldn't be manufacturing all the things that it manufactures. It's not its strong suit. Not when people are going to be replaced with robots. Its strong suit should be designing the robots. Its strong suit is building and designing the precision equipment that robots are going to need in order to do human tasks. It's not even clear they should be making automobiles, maybe some at the very high end. But Germany should become more and more of a service economy, like the United States. And everybody knows that. Anybody who knows economics knows that. And yet the United States, which is in this sweet spot, which is in this great spot of being the service economy to the world, doesn't want that. It wants manufacturing. It wants all of Germany's problems. That's what Trump wants. That's what so many of the people who voted for Trump want. They want a backbreaking, hard labor, manufacturing jobs back when all those jobs are going to robots sooner or later. What do you bring them back for exactly? Anyway, Europe is in trouble. I doubt that they will do the right thing. They have an amazing opportunity here, which will be missed because the people running the UK are socialists. The people who run the EU are just statists, little fascists. Economically, Macron might go for this. He might be the only person in Europe. The Poles might go first. They have a fairly free market system in Poland relative to the rest of Europe. I mean, just export Poland to the rest of Europe in terms of economics. But yes, Europe, it's time for Europe to have a unified military. It's time for Europe to have a unified economic vision. It's time for that economic vision to be around freedom. And, it would be great if Europe also got rid of its hate speech laws and established as one of its leading principles something equivalent to the First Amendment. But that is not happening. Anyway, on a domestic front, DOGE is going around saving us a lot of money. It's going to cut government deficit significantly. It's going to cut government spending significantly. Or maybe not. Or first, DOGE is claiming, $60 billion saved already. Private estimates or independent estimates think it's more around 8 billion, 8.6, 9, maybe billion so far saved from DOGE. Maybe it's more, maybe it's less. But Musk is still going for $1 trillion. And he has learned the art of making bombastic statements and promises. And by doing so, shifting the whole vibe and the whole, the media attention and where the media is focused and what the media is actually doing, just shifting that. So today, Musk basically said that he was going to discuss with Trump the possibility of everybody in America, all taxpayers in America, getting a DOGE dividend. Basically, everybody who pays taxes in America will get a $5,000 refund on their taxes from the savings. So he took, I think he took $1 trillion, divided it up by the number of households who pay taxes, and came up with a number of 5,000. Now, what is the point? What is the point? I thought the whole point was to cut the deficit and to pay down the debt. I thought the whole point was we're going to go bankrupt. Now, granted, this is a one-time thing. And if you can cut $1 trillion, supposedly it's $1 trillion every single year. So maybe that's the thinking. But don't you want this money to go to paying down the debt? Paying down the debt also has it will just reduce the deficit. It'll mean less debt. But isn't that good? Because then there'll be a lot less interest payment on the debt, which is now I think the third largest line item in the budget after Social Security and Medicare. How does this make sense to anybody? The government's just giving checks to people. And if those checks are going to be just provided to people by the Fed buying up government debt, then is that just like the stimulus checks that Biden sent Americans and we got inflation Trump and Biden sent Americans and we got inflation as a consequence? What is the thinking behind this other than to distract and to give people more motivation to get excited about DOGE? Let's go DOGE, let's go DOGE, because they might get $5,000 check in return. It's just so, detached from reality. $5,000 refund check to every American taxpayer, funded by savings that are identified by DOGE. And social media, of course, is going nuts. This is amazing. We're going to do amazing. Look, Trump promised us prosperity, and we're going to get $5,000 from the government. This is so cool. Iran throws up his arms in, I don't know what. How are people taking this seriously? How are people taking this seriously? How are people taking these people seriously? I don't know. It's ongoingly depressing, but it's infuriating. Just as an aside, the Trump administration, I don't know if they have the right to do this, but they claim they're going to do it anyway. They're going to do this anyway. The Trump administration has decided that it's going to terminate New York City congestion pricing. So right now, New York has implemented congestion pricing for driving into Manhattan. And by all accounts, this has resulted in fewer cars in Manhattan, much easier driving in Manhattan, just a dramatically improved driving experience inside Manhattan. Trump doesn't like it. Trump doesn't like it. I don't know why, but he doesn't like it. Maybe the taxi cabs have to pay more money, and he's in their pocket. Maybe some people who go into work at Trump Tower or Trump something have to pay when they travel into Manhattan, and he doesn't like that, and they're complaining to him, and he wants to make them happy. I don't know, but people are complaining to Trump, and Trump has decided congestion prices is out, and he's going in there and doing it. Now, this is a horrible idea. Congestion pricing actually makes sense, but this is not what a president should be deciding on. It's not in the scope of his authority. It strikes me as this is state rights, I think. This is a state decision, a city decision. How is it a federal government decision? Wanda Freeman says, who cares what he says? He will be gone in 4 years' time. Maybe, not clear. And you can do a lot of damage to your future, to my present in 4 years. A lot of damage, particularly if you live in Europe. You should be concerned, even if he is gone in 4 years. And of course, who comes after him in 4 years? What precedent is he setting for the next guy, whether a Democrat or Republican? So it doesn't matter if he's gone in 4 years. What is the precedent now for presidential power, for presidential stupidity, for presidential overreach? Not good. It's not good. All right, let's cover a few more stories quickly here, so we can get to the super chat and I can keep my my hard deadline. All right, so as part of Trump declaring the cartels, Mexican cartels, as basically terrorist organizations, and as part of, I guess, Vivek Ramaswamy's campaign idea of we should go to war with the cartels in Mexico, the CIA has ramped up its covert drone surveillance operations over Mexico. It's expanded the program. It was quietly launched under Biden, so Biden was already doing this, but it's now going much further under Trump. The drones, unarmed for now, are hunting fentanyl labs deep inside cartel territory and passing intelligence to the Mexican authorities. People may be concerned about sovereignty issues, but it doesn't seem like anybody really cares, given that these cartels are unbelievably violent within Mexico, primarily, and that they kill people constantly. They kill politicians, they kill journalists, they kill just ordinary civilians. And Mexico might actually view this positively. It might actually be, it'll be interesting to see if the United States starts taking military action against the cartel. What Mexico does, does it still just sit by and let America do it? Does it cooperate with the Americans? Does it reject it and resent it? And then what do the cartels do? Remember, the cartels have a lot of money. And they have firepower. They have real firepower. Now, they might not yet have the firepower to inflict a lot of damage in the U.S., but that could change. Look at what the Houthis did. And the Houthis are a lot poorer than cartel. I imagine now that cartel buyers going around the world right now, maybe even to the Houthis, certainly to the Iranians and the Russians, and buying weapons, maybe even rocket systems, certainly drones. Drones are easy. To, have America pay a price America's border cities are very, very close. Anyway, who knows how exactly this is going to play out? I don't like it. I don't see the point. It's not going to end well, and it's not going to solve the fentanyl problem. It might change the incentive so that fentanyl is actually produced in the United States rather than in Mexico. But the fentanyl is a demand-driven phenomena, not a supply-driven phenomena. And the demand, I don't see the demand being diminished by any of this. So yes, CIA flying drones over Mexico to track the cartels. And this reminds me of when I was at the NSA years ago. And in the Q&A, they made the argument that everything they do is American national security. It's a national security issue. And I said, well, I challenged them on listening to Angela Merkel. I challenged them on listening. Supposedly, the NSA had been listening in on conversations with the Brazilian oil company and the negotiations around oil drilling, I guess to give American oil companies an advantage. I challenged them on that, and then I challenged them on, and then they mentioned drugs, and I said, how is drugs coming into the United States a national security threat? And they almost flipped out. To them, this was, of course, a national security threat. There's no question it's a national security threat. This is something that the military dealing with was a must and okay and absolutely. Anyway. So, yes, so that continues now with drone. It's not just the NSA now, it's the CIA. It soon will be military intelligence, and soon it will be basically the intelligence community. It would be the U.S. military. All right, let's talk about Milei. This is a kind of a developing story. It started on Friday. So on Friday, there was a new coin, a Libra coin. This is one of those meme coins. This is some kind of crypto coin. Was released in Argentina, and Milei posted on it on X, on Twitter, saying that the Libra coin would help fund small businesses and startups. That the money that came in for this would actually be invested in small businesses and startups. Now, I have no idea whether it's true. You know, I don't know that there's enough information out there to see exactly what this Libra coin was and is going, but it seems like here's another one of these stupid meme coins that is not backed by anything and means nothing and is doing nothing. Anyway, as part of his Twitter, he shared a link where you could buy it. This is why presidents, politicians should not get involved in the economy, in business. Milei should stick to cutting government intervention in the economy, not adding to it. Anyway, he put a link, and it had the same impact as when Trump endorsed the Trump meme coin. Its price shot up. I think Milei then realized what had happened, and that people were buying this coin not because of any inherent value, not because it might help small businesses and startups, but because he had posted it. And as a consequence, he deleted his post. As soon as he deleted the post, the coin collapsed. And a lot of investors lost their money, which is what happens with these kind of coins, right? Because it's all based on thin air. As a consequence of this, Milei has been accused of fraud. There have been complaints filed at Argentina's criminal court that he committed fraud. There's also been calls in Congress, in the Argentinian Congress, to impeach him. And supposedly the opposition is already starting impeachment proceedings against him. Milei says that he deleted the post in order to avoid speculation following the public reaction. But it's also true that Milei met several times with the sponsor of this coin And there is speculation, again, speculation, nothing more as far as I know, or rumors, right, that his sister, Karina, his sister is his most important advisor. His sister goes with him everywhere. He'll be in the United States later this week, meeting with Trump. His sister will be there. When he met with me, his sister was there. When he came to our conference and met with me, his sister was there. His sister's always there in the background. His sister is kind of his number one advisor, the person who really, she was his campaign advisor. She's his advisor as president. She is does not speak publicly. She does not do anything like that, but she is a powerful, powerful influence on Milei. Anyway, supposedly, Hayden Davis, who is one of the sponsors of the Libra token, this meme coin, this cryptocurrency, bragged in a text message to another investor that he had paid Karina Milei to get the president to do the tweet. Now, if that's true and that can be verified, then that is fraud. So, this is what's being reported by, newspapers in Argentina and by the industry site CoinDesk, which does crypto. Of course, Milei is denying this, as is the sister. We will see. His sister works for him. Yeah, she has a former position in the Argentinian government. Now, look, I don't know. I don't know what the facts are, so this is why I'm hesitant to talk about this. It's horrible. It's horrible. No matter why he did this, it's a distraction. It can help his case with the Argentinian public. It can help his case with the Congress that he's trying to sway to pass his legislation. If he gets impeached, this will be a global scale tragedy. A global scale tragedy. There's no reason to think his sister's diabolical. His sister is just an advisor. She is an essential part of his team. So nothing I said should be interpreted as anything negative about the sister. It says something about, I think Milei on a one-on-one basis is relatively shy. I think Milei on a one-on-one basis, I think his sister gives him a certain confidence and voice. But whatever. The point is, it's tragic. Here is, I think, the best politician in the world doing amazing things, economically at least. And for this to be his downfall would be unbelievably tragic for Argentina and really for the rest of the world and for the cause of liberty. And more than that, I would say, I wouldn't be surprised, and I know some of you will object to this, but I wouldn't be surprised if Milei dabbling in this meme stock is not inspired by everything that Trump has done with his meme stock, with his stuff. Trump gets away with it. I mean, how many people have lost a fortune on Trump media, on Trump meme stocks, and all these things? I mean, where's the SEC looking into all of this? And have those been manipulated? Of course they have. Is Trump in a position because he's president to manipulate them? Of course he is. And yet, nobody cares. I mean, there was a Donald Trump meme coin, there was a Melania meme coin, all went up to gazillions of dollars and then crashing. So to the extent that Trump has inspired this in Milei, that would be truly tragic. And I'm also hoping, I don't know, I mean, he's coming to see Trump this week, but I'm really hoping that Milei's eyes are being opened right now to the depravity of Trump, given Trump's behavior towards Putin in Ukraine. Milei has been a courageous voice for Ukraine, pro-Ukraine, anti-Russia. And I wonder what he's thinking watching Trump do what Trump is doing. I don't know. I wish I could ask him. I don't have that access. All right, finally, if you're not depressed enough, NASA has increased the chance a major asteroid smashes into Earth in 2032. It now gives this occurrence a probability of 3.1%, up from 2.6% last week. It's constantly running models trying to project where this asteroid. Now, the asteroid, from a perspective of stuff out there in space, is fairly small, but it is an asteroid that could easily wipe out a large city. It could easily wipe out a large city. Right now, on its trajectory, the highest risk cities in the world are Bogota, Abidjan, Lagos, Khartoum, that's Sudan, Mumbai in India, Kolkata in India, and Dhaka. So it's kind of more in some of the southern hemisphere. Of course, if it hits an ocean, the tsunami that such an event could have massive consequences to a lot of different places. I was just looking at the map. Where does Puerto Rico line up? NASA does have asteroid deflecting technology that it's been testing. That would be interesting. That would be kind of cool. China is also testing its own technology on a small asteroid in 2027. So we might have both the United States and China with technology that could deflect an asteroid. One of my favorite stupid fun movies is Armageddon, where they go up to deflect the asteroid. That was a really fun movie. So I really enjoyed that one with the actor's name escapes my mind. But yeah, we'll be watching this over the next 8 years to see if probabilities grow. They are, one of the big telescopes is going to be moved to focus on this asteroid next month. So they'll probably have a better sense of the trajectory of the asteroid later in the month. All right. And I guess finally, Microsoft has unveiled something called Majorana 1. Majorana 1. Now, I don't know what this actually means, but I'm just going to read to you because I think it's newsworthy, even if I don't know quite the full consequences of this. They view this as a real leap in computing. Majorana 1 is a quantum computing chip that introduces a new state of matter for computation. After 17 years of research, this chip uses topological qubits, promising a more stable form of quantum computing. This development could significantly accelerate the timeline for practical quantum computers, moving the goal from decades to years. The chip features an innovative architecture designed to fit 1 million qubits on a chip the size of a human hand. Now, I don't know what a qubit is, and I don't really care. It's something in physics, and it's in the hardest part of physics, which is quantum mechanics, which I'm not never really good at. I could do the math, but I never really understood what was going on. It's very counterintuitive, but there's something obviously happening there. Quantum mechanics works. Quantum, stuff is built with quantum stuff, and a lot of people are trying to build quantum computers. Quantum computers are very unstable because part of the quantum phenomena is that it's not predictable. But this is a big leap forward and could result in quantum computing in a few years. Quantum computing would be thousands of times faster than anything we have today. It would make NVIDIA as a chip manufacturer irrelevant because it would make computers, it would make the kind of supercomputers. Now, quantum computers will probably be very expensive, but they will make all these server farms that everybody is building for AI basically irrelevant because a much smaller computer running on this quantum principles would be able to do all that. It would one of the things quantum computers could do is they could decipher any cipher that exists out there today. I mean, it would be a massive revolution, much bigger than AI itself. It would be a massive, massive revolution. Now, there's still some people who are skeptical about the possibility of a quantum computer. From a physics theoretical perspective, I don't know enough one way or the other. But qubits, they're called qubits. Okay, qubits. So, but in any case, if it is possible, this is super exciting. This is the first such chip ever made, and I'm sure others will be jumping into this. A lot of people are trying to build quantum computers. If it's possible, it will be done, and it could happen sooner than we expected. And that means, yeah, a much bigger leap forward. So Elon Musk is out there defending Donald Trump's statement on Zelensky. He's attacking Zelensky basically as a dictator. He is not doing the will of the people. He doesn't have a free press. He doesn't have elections, and all of this stuff, all the conventional Trumpist stuff. And then Paul Graham, who is this venture capitalist, is criticizing him, and Elon Musk says, well, what would you do if you were U.S. president? And Paul Graham gives a very reasonable answer. Paul Graham's very bad on Hamas and Israel, but he's a really smart guy on a lot of other things. So it's surprising. His attitude towards Israel is very surprising. I don't quite get it, but maybe there's some, who knows? Anyway, he writes, I'd start from the principle that countries shouldn't invade their neighbors. It costs a lot to arrive at that principle, and I don't want to go back. That would put me on Ukraine's side. But I'd want to consult experts about what I could do that would help them the most. So kind of a moderate, cool, non-escalation answer. I wonder if Elon will reply to him. He is a big shot. He's the kind of person Elon does go back and forth with. Here's another one. I mean, a lot of people are rising to the challenge. This is good. So this guy writes, how much is the U.S. promise by Article 5 of NATO treaty that, quote, an armed attack against one shall be considered an attack against them all worth today, he asks. John Cochrane replies, John Cochrane, the economist I like, about as much as the joint U.S., EU, and Russia promise to defend the territorial integrity of Ukraine in return for them giving up nuclear weapons. That was 1994. That's good, John. Absolutely right. It's worthless. Here is what French intellectual Bernard-Henri Lévy writes, who is very pro-Israel, by the way. No POTUS, he's writing to Trump. Zelensky is not a dictator. He is a resistance. He is the soul of his people and of Europe. And he has, in Ukraine, the popularity that Winston Churchill had in 1944 in the UK. This is the testimony of a man who has, for the past 3 years, traveled all over Ukraine. This is Bernard-Henri Lévy, who has traveled all over Ukraine over the last 3 years. So the sane people out there get it. And it's sad now to include Elon Musk as not part of the sane group. Maybe this was inevitable, but it now seems unquestionable that he's not part of the sane group. All right, let's jump in here with it's going to be. I think the most interesting thing I would say is what are the Tom Cottons, the Senator Graham, and some of the other, Russia hawks in the Senate, Republicans, going to say about what Trump just did? And is there going to be a backlash within the Republican Party? That is going to be super important for the health of American liberty as we move forward. Can anybody criticize Trump? Can they? Will anybody do it? All right, I'm going to jump right in to the questions here, primarily just because we're short on time, and there were a lot of questions again, like yesterday. Lots of $5 questions, a lot of them. But luckily, we got Adri who came in with $100. So thank you, Adri. And Adri says, thanks for keeping me informed. It is my pleasure. Sometimes a depressing pleasure, but still my pleasure. We are short about $50 from our target, so if somebody would like to come in and get us the target, that would be great. I prefer now stickers, $2 sticker, $5 sticker, $1 sticker, whatever, to questions, just because I'm running out of time. So I, save questions for tomorrow. I'll be back tomorrow. You can ask me questions tomorrow. Now should be a big campaign for stickers. We have about 190 people watching. Don't forget to subscribe. If you're not a subscriber, subscribe to the Yaron Brook Show so you get announcements and you get notified by YouTube about the shows when they go live. Don't forget to like the show. Give it a like before you leave the show. So do it now so you don't forget later. And support the show on a monthly basis on patreon.com. But right now, what you can do, if you're on Twitter right now, in YouTube right now, please just do a sticker like Carolina did and John just did. And I'm going to jump into the questions. Oyvind says, Republicans supporting Trump as the world's savior are ostriches with their heads so deep in the sand they can literally see Narnia. What Trump is saying is so vile that this can seriously damage U.S.-EU relationships. It really is sad. I agree with you completely, Oyvind. It's not even an issue of damaging EU-U.S. relationship. This is unbelievably damaging to the U.S. If you're an American, you could say, to hell with the EU. But this is unbelievably damaging to the U.S., its credibility. And again, I will say what I said yesterday. If you're Xi in Beijing, sitting there watching this, you are rubbing your hands with glee. You are like, oh, right, huh? Okay. Interesting. I wonder what Trump is willing to, I wonder what the trade for Taiwan could be. I wonder how we can cut a deal for Taiwan. I wonder how much pressure I would have to put on America to get Taiwan. He's strategizing about the right approach to corner Trump into giving up everything like he is with Putin for Taiwan. Hopper, how's bad philosophy annihilated a large majority of the population's self-esteem? They can't respond to a hero or pride any longer, just cynicism and decay and mindlessness. Yes, I think we live in a cynical, mindless, decaying culture. And a culture that is so, the better people, if you will, are so upset by the left that they become mindless to the evil of the right. I mean, I'll say this because it was brought up yesterday. Does Andy Bernstein still think Trump is a hero after what he's doing to Ukraine? I'm just curious. Or is it just he's just a flawed hero? But is this, what do you think? If people who really admire Trump would think he's basically a good guy, how do you do this? But yeah, the bad philosophy is basically dumbed us down, numbed us to outrage, and has destroyed our self-esteem and our self-confidence. I mean, think about all the conservatives today who America, bring all the troops home. We can't do anything. We're so weak. We're afraid of ourselves. We're afraid of our war. What are we going to do? So, yes, it's destroyed our self-esteem, and cynicism is all we have left. And this is the left and right have both done this to us. Shazbot, every dictator is quoting Atlas Shrugged. Every dictator is a mystic, and every mystic is a potential dictator. Yeah, I mean, that's powerful. That's Atlas Shrugged. Every dictator is a mystic. All are. Putin is a mystic of empire, of Russian spirit, of Russian orthodoxy, of whatever. Xi is a mystic of more of the philosopher king type. But it also has to do with the Chinese something. Ryan, make America free again. That would be good. It would be nice to make America free again. I wonder who's going to do that. Who's going to do that? Andrew, just a complimentary tip for your take on what Europe needs to do. Keep arguing for the ideal. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that, Andrew. Thanks for the support. Another Andrew. Same Andrew, but another question. Can you speak to the importance of having ideals and that those ideals are practically achievable? Yes, I think it's crucial to know where you're going. And I think having ideals is part of having purpose in life. You have to know why it is that you're doing, what direction you are heading. So even though you can't achieve your ideal in a moment, even though you may never be able to achieve your ideal, you know the direction, you know the purpose of your argument, you know what you're trying to move towards, what you're trying to do. And from a political perspective, even though we can't have a laissez-faire capitalist America tomorrow, knowing that that's what we want, will shape how we get there, will shape what it will take to get there, and it will inspire us in terms of we know what is possible to man. That is an inspiration. Whether it's achieved in our lifetime or not, it's inspiring to know what is possible. And that is the role of the ideal. Lynn, let's pay people to stay at home again. UGH, here we go again. I don't know that they're paying people to stay at home, but they're paying people to vote for Trump. They're paying people to rally around DOGE and to support it. What better way to make sure that DOGE is something that everybody in America loves and admires and supports and wants to see more of than bribing the American people with $5,000 each? Joshua, Ukraine will miss the U.S. support if it's lost, but the nations of Europe seem to be coming to Ukraine's aid, such as the UK giving Ukraine $1 billion. Is there still hope for Ukraine without the U.S. aid? I think there is. But it all depends on how all this transpires. Imagine if America sides with Russia. That is, imagine if the U.S. negotiates a peace deal with Russia, and Zelensky says no, and the U.S. blames Zelensky, and it renews its economic relations with Russia, does away with all its sanctions on Russia, and then so it does away with and then places sanctions on Ukraine, and maybe even makes it harder for Europe, because Europe is supporting Ukraine in spite of the fact that America said don't. This could get very, very, very ugly. So yes, if the U.S. just said, you know what, and Trump could have done this, right? He could have done this. He didn't have to go negotiate with Putin. He could have said, you know what, I don't think this is a good use of American money. I don't think this is a good use of our tax dollars. I'm just going to stop aiding Ukraine. He could have said that. And that would have been really, really bad, but nowhere near as bad as this. And then Ukraine would have had to gain support from the Europeans, and it could have kept on fighting, and no big deal. And Trump could have said, we still think Russia are the bad guys. We're still going to keep the sanctions. But no, what he's moving towards is an alliance with Russia. That's what it meant when Rubio said yesterday, we're going to examine all the various ways in which we can both geopolitically and economically cooperate. What does the U.S. have to gain from Russia? Nada, nothing, zero. What does Russia have to gain from the U.S.? Everything. This is why I objected to the negotiations or the love fest between Trump and the brutal dictator of North Korea. This is why Ayn Rand always said, and a negotiator between evil and the good. The good has nothing to gain. Evil has everything to gain. This is why you should never negotiate with evil. Nobody should sit down with Putin. Nobody should sit down with Lavrov. It's disgusting and despicable and an unbelievable sign of American weakness and willingness to just roll over. Thomas says, during your segment on idealized 50s pictures, you noted things worse for women back then. Wasn't it also true for the racial minorities? Things were getting better, but I doubt minorities regarded the 50s as the golden age. Yeah, I think I said that. If I didn't, I should have, but I'm pretty sure I did. I said about minorities, and I also said about gays. So I think if you're any kind of minority in that sense, gays were discriminated against back then, and women were, and certainly minorities in the South, but even in the North, it was redlining, sponsored by the government. I mean, it was really, really, really bad. So all of those are far better off today than they were back then. All right, Alejandro, thank you. Capitalist Sky, thank you for the stickers. And who did I miss? Mary Aline and Esoteric Dichotomy. Thank you guys for the stickers. Really appreciate it. All right. James, a friend is visiting London right now. What are your 5 restaurants in and around the city? My friend does not eat sushi and loves Chinese food. There is a 2 Michelin-star Chinese restaurant in London. I would definitely try that if he loves Chinese food. I don't remember the name, but it should be easy. I think it's the only Michelin-star Chinese restaurant in the UK. So that would be a good recommendation. I love the West African restaurants in London. The 2 Ikoyi, if he wants to spend a lot of money. It's very expensive, but the meal is amazing, but it's very expensive. Ikoyi has 2 Michelin stars. And then, Akoya, something like that. I think it's Akoya, Coco. I don't know. There are 2 others that have 1 Michelin star. So if he looks, again, Michelin Guide, 1-star African restaurants, those are excellent, excellent. What else? Palomar for good Israeli food. God, you catch me like this and I have to remember names. There's a great Thai restaurant. There's probably several great Thai restaurants in Soho. Yeah, I mean, put it this way. London is the foodie. There's the Barbary Coast. Barbary Coast is like a barbecue place, really, really good. North African, run by Israelis, but North African barbecue place that's really good. It's just no end to the good food that exists in London. So it's I think for diversity and quality, it may be the best place anyway. But sorry, the names are just not coming to me. Mika, do you think Putler got access to the Orange Clown's browser history? Oh, Putin. Do you think Putin got access to the Orange Clown's browser history, or is the P tape real and he has it? I don't know, but would I be surprised? No. James, do you have any favorite restaurants in Texas, specifically in Dallas, Fort Worth, and Austin metro area? God, you can't ask me these questions live on the show. This is a really good, I don't have in Dallas, but in Austin, just look up best barbecue in Austin. There's several, like 2 or 3 you've got to try. Phenomenal barbecue places in Austin, Texas. There's some great Mexican places, like modern Mexican places. I don't remember their names. One's on South Congress, I think, or South Lamar. They're in the South. That is just, food is spectacular, really, really good. And then there's a restaurant I always go to in Austin, and I forget its name now. I can't do this on the fly. It just doesn't. My mind doesn't work that way. It doesn't retain names. It doesn't retain people. It doesn't retain names of restaurants. It's very, very hard to do, and I don't have my list in front of me. And I don't think I have a list for like Austin and everything. I have selective lists. Okay, Lynn, to clarify, COVID payments created a lot of lazy people. Yes. People unwilling to work because they were being paid to stay home. Another 5,000 is likely to add to a lot more Xbox sales and fewer employees for a while. I mean, that's true, but there's also indication that after COVID, employment did tick up, and we're back to normal today in terms of participation, workforce participation, particularly among the young. But yes, it did incentivize the lockdowns plus the checks, incentivized people to not work. All right, let's see. James, you will not visit Dubai. However, will you visit Malaysia? No. Morocco? No. Or any other Muslim country that treats Jews well. Malaysia, if you have an Israeli passport, they won't let you in. Morocco treats Jews well, maybe, but am I guaranteed that the guy I meet or checks me into the hotel or something is not an Islamist? Do I feel safe in a place like Morocco, where I know there are strong Islamist tendencies and where a variety of Islamist organizations are? No. So, no, I don't feel safe any Islamic. I mean, the only Muslim countries I would go to and have been to are Albania, which is very secular, and Azerbaijan, which is very secular. But I'm not going to go to any country that self-identifies as Muslim and where there's a real Islamist threat. No. Too dangerous. Malaysia, I once was invited to give a talk in Malaysia. I called the guy up. He was a guy studying at Oxford. I'd met in the UK, and from a very wealthy family in Malaysia. And I said, "Hey, can you guarantee my freedom, my security in Malaysia?" And it took him 2 weeks to come back to me, and I said, "Look at my stuff online, and then tell me if you can guarantee my safety in Malaysia." And 2 weeks later, he came back and said, "Why don't we do the talk in Singapore?" No, not going to any of those places. Michael, do you see the pogrom happening in Brooklyn, New York right now? No, I don't. I'll look it up after the show. James, what industries, as an investor, do you think will benefit under Trump for the next 4 years? Well, I think obviously energy will benefit. I think some of the tech industry will benefit. I don't know, AI will benefit. Others, primarily because I think they all have Trump's ear. So anything that has Trump's ear will benefit. But I think a lot of just general industries will benefit from whatever deregulation happens. Although, again, given the FTC yesterday saying that they're keeping Lena Khan's standards, I don't know how regulatory friendly Trump is actually going to be. So I don't know. I don't invest based on presidents. I don't try to predict these things. I think that much smarter people, much more involved in the markets, have already priced that in. So the industries, the stocks that have gone up over the last 6 months have gone up in anticipation of a Trump benefit. Industries that have gone down because so it's all priced, it's all there. I don't think I have anything to add. It's why I don't really actively invest. I'm a passive investor. James D, do you like Scotland, Ireland, or England the most based on culture, your values, and visiting frequently for talks? I know London is best for food. Oh, I like England the most by far. Scotland's nice, but way too cold and dreary, and just not that much to do, and the food is not that great. Ireland is, again, nice, but again, you just can't compare it to London or even the surroundings, Oxford, Cambridge, places like that. The civilized places within England are amazing. Frank, what does the word Trump mean in a bridge game? Oh, God, it means that you have a Trump card, so they might be playing, if the Trump is spades and everybody's playing clubs, but you don't have any clubs anymore, and you throw in a spade, you win. So it trumps the cards that are being played. Were Hitler and Mussolini smarter or more coherent than Trump, or did they also communicate in word salads? They were more charismatic. I think in some ways they were more coherent, and whatever they did, they managed to unify or attract a very large, significant portion of the people involved, so that they could dominate. They could become the kind of dominant forces in their countries and in their. Trump is it does not have that ability to unify and become kind of a dictator, I don't think. David Holiday. Hey, David. In Australia, the government has an Australian-made logo and certification program for products. My question is, would a similar American-made certification by our government to control who can claim to be made in U.S. be a moral and proper function of government? Absolutely not. The government just has no role in this. It has no responsibility in this. There's nothing protecting individual rights here. There's no individual rights at stake. You imagine the bureaucracy to determine what's America made or not. Why does anybody care? Is an iPhone made in America or not? Well, some of it is, some of it isn't. Most products, some of it is, some of it isn't, right? So, no, absolutely no value, and it's completely outside the realm of the responsibility of government. Government is there to protect individual rights, and this is not a rights issue. Thank you, David. $100. Really, really appreciate the support. It's been a while. Hopefully, you'll come to Ocon in Boston and we can catch up. Liam, is truth unstoppable? Is objectivism unstoppable? Yes, in the very, 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 very long term. Obviously, in the short term, lies seem to be unstoppable. In Trump's first year, do you see taxes being cut significantly, or will he just bring rates down from 37 to 35? Any chance of capital gains or dividend tax cut? No, I don't think you'll see any tax cuts. I think the entire focus you're seeing right now is on keeping the tax cuts that he made in 2017 from expiring. The whole energy right now around taxes is preventing the expiration of the tax cuts that passed in 2017. That's about it. So I don't think there's any real new tax cuts other than the elimination of taxes on tips and the elimination of taxes on Social Security benefits, which I'm in favor of because I'm going to receive Social Security benefits soon enough. And says, weren't you saying 3 years ago that this was Europe's fight much more than the U.S.? Yeah, it is Europe's fight much more than the U.S. I still think that. That doesn't mean the U.S. should, surrender to Putin. That doesn't mean that the United States should embrace Vladimir Putin. Doesn't mean that the United States president should lie about Zelensky. It doesn't mean the United States should just, the United States should maybe even reduce its military support to Ukraine. I mean, even that is acceptable to me as compared to what's going on right now. It doesn't mean that the United States should pull the rug out of Europe and Ukraine. But the main thing is, it does not mean that we should embrace Putin, that we should sit down and negotiate with Putin, that we should give in to Putin's demands, that we should, if the Europeans want Ukraine in NATO, why shouldn't it be near NATO? Why should we say no before we even negotiate? I hope you're listening, Anne, because I hate this distortion and perversion of what I say and the implications of it, which is kind of implicit in your question. It's a gotcha question. But what's there to get? Nothing I've said contradicts that fact. Iron Meerkat, Poland needs to get nuclear weapons. Every European country that borders Russia should have 50 nukes pointed at Moscow and 30 at St. Petersburg. You don't need 50, you don't need 30. A couple, 2 or 3 would be enough. But yes, I am now convinced that the sooner the better, South Korea, Japan, Taiwan, Poland, maybe the Baltic states should all have nukes. I am for. I'm coming out for nuclear proliferation for good guys. You can't trust America. You can't count on it. And all these countries, I think Poland, the Baltic states, I think that's probably enough in Europe. And Japan and South Korea, certainly Taiwan possibly, should all have nukes. Sooner the better. Enric, Trump is becoming the worst American president, contending with Andrew Jackson. No, I think Wilson was worse than Andrew Jackson. I think Trump was already worse than Andrew Jackson just from his first term. If Zelensky has sit down with Putin, should he be like Michael Corleone in the restaurant? Also, if Zelensky loses the East, can Ukraine still join NATO? Yes, I don't see why not, but America won't let it. America said we won't let Ukraine join NATO, whether they lose the East or not. I don't remember what Marco Corleone did in the restaurants. I don't know. Subicask, this is like giving $5,000 to someone while burning down their house. Yes, that's exactly what DOGE is doing. Otten asks, what am I wearing on my left arm? I'm wearing my Whoop activity tracker. That is my Whoop activity tracker. Bread Pants, love the show you're on. I really value the commiseration and your takes. Sanity unleashed. Thank you. Really appreciate that. Andrew, Zelensky has the strength of character such that belittling him won't shut him up. But he's in a no-win position because the nation that's supposed to stand for freedom is selling his nation out. Yes, I agree completely. Maybe Europe will come to his aid. We'll see if the Europeans get a spine. James, as awful as Trump is, a part of me thinks if Kamala won, things would be much, much worse. I don't see how. But, I don't see how. They would be bad and worse in other dimensions. But long term, I don't think she'd be doing anywhere near as much damage. Justin says, you were right about Trump. He's not a great negotiator at all. Yep. Thank you. Esoteric Dichotomy, hey, Yaron, would you ever commission an artist sculptor to produce a custom artwork for you? If yes, what art genre are your favorite? I'd probably commission a painting or sculpture. I don't know. I don't like to commission art because I want to see art I love and buy it. Right? If I commission art, I have to come up with an idea. I don't have any ideas. I want the sculpture to do what he wants to do, and then hopefully I respond to it. So I'm not big on me deciding for the artist what the theme should be or something like that. No, he needs to go sculpt what's in his soul, and hopefully I respond to it. Jason, no need to really answer like a sticker. My favorite 3 Bruce Willis movies are Die Hard, Armageddon, and 13 Monkeys. Sadly, he has dementia, and I will miss him making new films. Yeah, it is sad that he has dementia. It's really, really sad. I like Die Hard. I like Armageddon. I don't even think I've seen 12 Monkeys. But I like a lot of other Bruce Willis movies. A lot of them are just fun. Robert, my Trump fan objectivist friends believe everything Trump and Tucker and Tulsi and Candace say about Zelensky's character and about Ukraine as to blame for the war. No question. Keep up the good work. Can I just say that if you believe in Tucker, Tulsi, and Candace, Tucker and Candace in particular, I don't see how you can be an objectivist. So I'll just leave it at that. Justin says, please watch The Brutalist. I intend to. I'm waiting for it to come to streaming because theaters here in Puerto Rico, it's on the big screen, but it has Spanish subtitles. And I understand that there's enough dialogue in Hungarian that I would need English subtitles, and they don't have it here. So I'll have to either watch it in the States when I'm traveling or wait for it to stream and see it with English subtitles. All right, everybody. Thank you. I know I'm a little rushed here, but I have to call it a show. I really, really appreciate the super chatters. You guys blew away the target. You did great for 2 hours. Made up for yesterday, which is good. So on average, we're doing just as we should be doing, which is great because we're back on track to reach the monthly target. And I will see you guys all tomorrow. Tomorrow is Thursday, so it'll be at 2 o'clock. Same time as today, tomorrow and Friday. No reason why we can't go the 3 hours. No reason why we can't go the long shows. I just need we'll see what develops and what the news is. It seems like every day I think, oh, God, there's nothing to talk about. And every day, oh, God, is there stuff to talk about. So I will see you all tomorrow. Bye, everybody. Have a great rest of your week.